Hello, welcome back, and as always, I hope you're doing well. Right, today we're going to do our 10 things about the big boss. Now, before I start, thank you for all the comments I've gotten recently on the Hong Kong Legends DVD video and the 10 things, the Enter the Dragon, the Fist of Fury and the Way of the Dragon. The comments have been fantastic, and thanks to you guys, I've learned a whole bunch more. I may, after doing these series, I think I've got the Big Boss today and the Game of Death, and then I'm done with the 5 films. I may do one on Game of Death too, but I may actually just do things that I've learned from you lot. I don't know yet, but there's been so much. I've learned a whole bunch. Right, now before I start, as we all know, the Big Boss in America was released as Fists of Fury. Now, it was supposed to be the Chinese connection, capitalising on the drug film from 71, the Gene Hackman French Connection movie. But as we know, the canisters got mixed up and it was released as Fists of Fury. Now, there are videos going around on YouTube that are saying that Fist of Fury turned into Fists of Fury, or the other way round, Fists into Fist. But that's just bogus. It's not the Mandela effect. It was just a cock up with the canisters when they sent them to the States. So whoever's putting out videos saying it's the Mandela effect, you're full of shit. I've covered that on previous 10 things, you know, about the name change. I wasn't going to use it as one of the 10 things on here. So, without further ado, let's do 10 things you may or may not know about the Big Boss. 1. The crowd. In his inaugural confrontation with the ruffians who had struck the child at the ice stand, Shu Shang, played by James Chen, engaged in combat. The melee drifted towards the vicinity of a bus, where a throng of local onlookers are clearly spotted, watching the action being captured on film. Do you know what? I'm so busy watching James Chen's fight, I was very aware there was people in the background, but the whole village seemed to come out and watch them. It's unbelievable. Obviously now they have restrictions and they have closed in sets, so if they're filming on location they won't have people in the background, but literally it looked like the whole town. 2. Finger bandage. Throughout the film, the bandage on Chen's index finger on his right hand fluctuates in size and intermittently vanishes and reappears. There are many photos of Bruce wearing a plaster, a bandage, and it does vary in size throughout the film. And because films are not filmed in sequence, literally 1 minute it's there, 1 minute it's big, 1 minute it's short, 1 minute it's completely gone. Because Bruce cut his hand quite badly while washing a glass, and I think he received 10 stitches. So it is what it is. But yeah, quite an interesting thing. We always notice it. This, like I said, there's some really iconic photos of Bruce Lee from the Big Boss with a massive bandage plaster on his finger. But it's quite sporadic when you watch a film and take notice of it. 3. 4 lousy guys. Upon unveiling the cheating within the gambling den, Shu Shang and Chow En are pursued by 6 thugs. In the English dub, one thug issued a warning.
Listen, we're going to teach you a lesson. One you're not going to forget.
To which James Chen replied,
So? Just you 4 lousy guys? You gotta be kidding.
Despite the presence of 6 adversaries, obviously in the Mandarin and Cantonese he does say 6, but it always sort of like baffled me why they couldn't just say, what, just you 6 lousy guys instead of 4? I mean, it's clear there's 6 people in front of them. 4. The baton. At the ice factory, as Chen propels the block of ice down the ramp, a wooden baton affixed to the surface is clearly visible. This obstruction caused the ice to veer off course, ultimately shattering through the wooden barrier and crashing to the floor. I reckon most of us have noticed that baton screwed down on the ramp, But it was one I wanted to point out, because I suppose if you're just watching the film and you don't take a lot of notice of this stuff, you may not have noticed it, but it's blatantly screwed down to send the ice veering off the ramp and smashing through. But you probably already knew this one. 5. The Cup. As Cheng arrives at the boss's house to inquire about the family's whereabouts, the maid entered with refreshments for him and the boss. She accidentally knocks over the cup, sending Chen's drink tumbling, spilling its contents onto the table. Yet, in a subsequent view, the cup has mysteriously righted itself, standing upright as if untouched, and the table is completely dry. Again, the cup went over, spilled it looked like tea all over the table, but I think we're so preoccupied with Chen trying to find out where Shusei was, and the Dot blowing some, is it ash, from his pipe onto her chest. We don't really take a lot of notice of the cup, but yet the next wide shot, the cup is stood upright, and the tea is all cleared up. Amazing. 6. The Magic Knife. Once the prostitute divulged the details of the drug smuggling, Chen took his leave. As she sat with her back to the door, the boss's son crept in silently. The sound of the knife slicing through the air was the only warning before it struck, and her face contorted in shock as the blade found its mark in her chest. The perplexing scene left one to wonder how, with her back turned to the door, the knife could have possibly embedded itself into her chest. I mean, obviously I'm very aware of it, but you'd expect it to go in her back from the door behind her. Amazing knife throwing that from Tony Lau. But yeah, a weird little scene. 7. Early Duck. During the skirmish within the ice factory, Chen ducks down a little too early, just before his adversary hurls the weapon in his direction. I don't know why I called it early duck. And it is, I'm nitpicking there. I really am nitpicking there. But it's a little bit too obvious, really. Bruce ducks down, and then the guy throws looks like a garden hoe or something like that, at him. I mean, when you're watching the action, you don't really take a lot of notice of it, but it's pretty blatant, really. 8. The Bordello. In the film, the depicted Thai brothel was not merely a set, but an operational establishment. The individuals populating the scenes, excluding Malalane's character, were in fact sex workers. They received compensation from Golden Harvest that surpassed their usual daily earnings from clients, in exchange for their participation in the movie. Now that we have the Mandarin cut, you see a hell of a lot more of the bordello and the people that work there. Some of them look really young, Thailand. But yeah, just an interesting bit of trivia. Obviously we know that the big boss, the budget was really, really small. And they was filming on location, but yeah, it was a real working house with real working girls in it. 9. Magic Shirt. Upon Chen's final arrival at the boss's lair, his shirt sleeve was initially down. However, as the confrontation with the boss's henchman and the boss himself intensifies, his shirt sleeves mysteriously roll up, seemingly of their own accord. Never really took no notice of it before, but doing the research for this video and having a poke around, it's true. You don't see Chen roll his sleeves up, but when he turns up to fight the boss and the hoodlums at the end, his sleeves all the way down to the bottom, and it gradually goes up his forearms until it's up here, and eventually, as we know, the boss rips it right off him, or rips up one of the arms off him, and then Chen rips the rest off. But yeah, quite an interesting bit of trivia that you might not have noticed. 10. The boss's dagger. As the climatic battle reaches its zenith, the boss flung a knife towards Chen. It is visibly observed flying above Chen's head. Again, the action is way too quick, but when he throws the dagger, you can see it. As I paused it, obviously the dagger is spinning. It's flying over Bruce's head as he obviously drops down to the ground and kicks it, and obviously the boss ends up like that. It's obviously a reverse shot and they pull the knives out. But yeah, unless you watch it in slow-mo, you don't really take a lot of notice of it. There's other bits and pieces behind the scenes, obviously the equipment. Bruce was really not happy on the set, and he wrote a lot of letters to Linda moaning about his time there. You know, it was lawless, very poor, cockroaches and lizards and bugs everywhere, and he lost a lot of weight and he couldn't eat well. And also Lo Wei, the director, was more interested, because they shot it without sound, he'd have the racing, the horse racing, because he was a bit of a gambler apparently, he'd have it blaring, which infuriated Bruce on the set. But there's loads of trivia about the Big Boss, but I wanted to sort of just pick out 10 that you can visually see. So, did you know all these 10 things about the Big Boss? Also, is there anything about the Big Boss that I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments down below. And again, do any of my Americans friends still call the Big Boss Fists of Fury? I bet there's some of you that do. I was lucky enough to go to Thailand in the early 2000s. I went to Bangkok, but I didn't stay there long, and we flew out to a little island called Koh Samui. Absolutely beautiful, and I'd love to go back, but boy would I like to go to Pak Chong, because the ice factory's still working, and the boss's lair, which he never leaves, by the way, through the whole film. The boss never leaves that mansion where he's at. It's still pretty much the same, a little bit more run down now, but it's pretty much the same as it was all the way back then in 1970 when it was filmed. Obviously we know it was released in 71. So yeah, there you go. There's my 10 things you may or may not know about Bruce Lee's The Big Boss. If you like this sort of thing, possibly give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It don't cost you no money, and it really does help me out. Thank you to all the new subscribers to the channel, everyone who's took time to comment, give it a like, and all of them wonderful things. It really does mean a lot. Thanks again to my patrons, you guys are amazing. And with that, I'm going to love you and leave ya. I've got just Game of Death, possibly Game of Death 2, but I need to actually review that film. But Game of Death should be out next week, hopefully. Yeah. Have yourselves an amazing week. Much love. And I'll be back with another ramble real soon. You take care now.